Welcome, Flat Earth Podcast family. Great to have you with us. If you're watching on YouTube, would you do me a solid? Just press subscribe, go onto the notification button there and select all that little bell so that you'll get notified of every video we do. If you want to find out anything more about what it is we do, head on over to our website, theflatearthpodcast.com. That's flat with two T's. There you'll find previous episodes, blogs, more information, a little PayPal button where you can buy me, a pack of fruit pastels, a pair of ski boots, an African island. I don't know. I'll let you define your level of giving. Anyway, I've had a few thoughts rattling around my brain today. I actually tried to record this podcast earlier this morning, but everything went wrong. You've had one of those days? Microphones failed for some reason, got round that. Camera settings were all odd for some reason, and by the time I sorted it out, I was 10 minutes into kind of recording, and then the camera battery just died, and I didn't have another one ready to go. I gave up. I was having such a bad morning, I actually went and did my self-assessment tax return as a form of relief. So that shows you how annoying it was going. As you look back across your life, what lessons do you see? What things do you glean from your experiences that have taught you stuff? I'd like to talk about just a couple of stories from my life, if that's all right. We'll be in and out here pretty quick time, I think. 2 stories, and I think these have been rattling around in my brain because of the current level of people displayed in the world, people you're coming across in your day-to-day life, people who are on the news and in programs and on shows and I don't know, social media, whatever. I don't know about you, but at times I just kind of lose all faith in people. But I know it's not true. I know I shouldn't give up all faith because you're here and I'm here. Like, we're legit. We're like legit, proper, good people. But there are other people in the world, and there are other things you have to deal with. So I want to tell you 2 stories from my life, from my glorious life. And the first story is a story from very early on in my life when I'd left school. I left school at 15, and I did some exams, but nothing much to talk about there. Let's move on. And did various sort of manual labour jobs, and eventually my dad, I think he maybe got sick of me just doing a few temporary jobs, and he said, "Look, why don't you go and work with a friend of mine, Pat?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, okay." He does removals. I was like, all right, I mean, I can lift heavy things and take them to another place and put them down and lift up more heavy things. I can do that for ages. So I'm built for removals. Like, that's my game. I'm there. I'm like ready. It's in my DNA. So I went to meet this guy with my dad, and he seemed like a nice guy. Although I say that, now I want to sit pretty here because I don't know where this guy is in the world now, or even if he is still on planet Earth. Not that he's like gone to another planet, but he might be dead. I don't know, man. But Pat, he seemed like a nice guy upon first meeting, but he did sort of have the appearance of an orc. Like Lord of the Rings orc, like sort of creepy and slimy. Now, he was ginger. I mean, I'm ginger. What hair I've got left is ginger, and the rest of my body is very ginger. So he was kind of like bald, but also ginger. He had the appearance of an orc or a fouled Uruk-hai from Lord of the Rings, and it was a bit of a strange moment, our meeting, but we sort of said, why don't you come work for me? I was like, okay, brilliant, I'll do it. Now, I've had loads of bosses. I don't know how many people you've worked for and how many jobs you've had. I've had fucking loads of jobs, okay? Loads of bosses, some good, some bad. My favourite boss in my working life was probably Nando Badetti, a little guy called Nando Badetti. He was a great guy to work for, Nando Badetti. He was a tiny man. He's a miniature person. But Nando Badetti was a great boss, a great guy, because he'd let you slack off a little bit. And every now and then he'd let me drive his little Fiat Uno Turbo, which is, these cars aren't around anymore, but it was just a little pocket rocket. Anyway, I'm digressing now. I went to work as a removals man. Now, I should say that my boss, Pat, my dad's friend, how do I best put this so as not to upset anyone? He was a dirtbag. He was a dirtbag, like scumbag. He was not a nice guy, and I found this out. My initial impression of him being sort of creepy and otherworldly was not far off it. He had people working for him who'd been working for him 15 years. And I came in and I was 17 at the time, 17 years old. And he put me on a higher wage than all of his loyal, long-standing workers. Now, I know this because he told me expressly, do not speak to anyone about what I'm paying you. Do not tell anyone what salary you're on. And that wound me up. And so when I was asked by one of these older guys, how much is Pat paying you? I told them, which kind of pissed Pat off crazy because the following day, no one turned up to work. But look, you got to stand for truth. And part of what I want to talk to you about tonight, don't worry, that's not the story about that, but I want to tell you about the need I see right now for people of truth and action, people who, as we've spoken about in the past, people of some moral standing, some people who have integrity, who are the same on the inside as they are on the outside. So yeah, the workers asked me, how much is Pat paying you? And I told them, and they lost their shit, and then Pat lost his shit because no one came in the following day. And I don't know how he resolved it, but my wage didn't go down, so I imagine their wage went up. But this was the kind of character of the guy, you know, had his workers on a particular wage, hadn't given them enough. I came in, maybe it's a favour of my dad, I don't know, maybe I was like crapping where I was eating here, but paid me more than workers who'd really slaved for him, you know. So anyway, I'll say all that to say I had the job for a while. It was great. We did loads of removals. My hardest day of work ever, carrying a baby grand piano up a spiral staircase. I might have talked about that before. It's always a day I remember as just the heaviest thing I'd ever lifted. Loads of cool stuff went on that job. But one day in particular, Pat, my boss, who was part orc, and like I say, not a great guy, morally speaking, brought his son into work. Now, the trouble with this is where Pat was like at least slightly tempered by maturity and sort of social graces, his son was just a straight up little shit. And I don't remember his name. I've blotted it out of my mind. But this little dirtbag, I was just the most. Imagine, like, you know, in films where they cast like the most sickly, horrible kid to be the sickly, horrible rich kid. That guy. That's the guy. So he comes to work with us. It's bring your kids to school, bring your kids to work day or whatever. Pat's there. And we're all day long, he's winding me up. All day long, he's winding me up. He trips me up a couple of times. And he's younger than me. I don't know. He's a couple of years younger than me, whatever. And it's really pissing me off. But, like, you know, it's like if you've ever been in a situation, it's the boss's son. So I keep going. And at one point, we were at this, in the centre of London, in these big flats, very posh flats. And Pat and one of the other removals guys had gone up to a flat. We used to collect very particular items of furniture to take to auction houses. You know, we didn't just do removals and house clearances. We did these specific things. So they were upstairs in this place, couple of floors up, doing their thing. I'm down there with Dirtbag. Now, Dirtbag, while I'm there, he's just constantly just punching me, like in the chest, in the arm, just punching me. And I said to him, like, Dirtbag, you don't punch me again, bro. Like, what are you doing? Just punch me again. I'm like, and I said, look, you punch me, bro, or one more time, I'm going to punch you right in your face. So what does little Dirtbag do? Little spoiled, entitled, you're not going to do nothing because my dad is your boss. What does this guy do? Punches me one more time right in the ribs. Now I turn around, and in this moment, I'm just like right in his mush. You know, I'm Tyson in his prime. You know, I'm just, I'm Prince Nassim just coming out of nowhere. I'm just like, boom. I'm Canelo up in his grill. I just smacked this kid, man. Smacked him. And the look of shock on his face was worth the price of admission alone. I don't know what the price was going to be, because am I going to get fired? Am I going to get like lost in London? Is dad going to beat me up? I don't know. So Pat and Nat eventually comes down, and they come down, and there's his son, very red-faced, not from my punch, but I think embarrassment and whatever, and very quiet. Now this kid is just all mouth, no trousers, all day long he's been on. And Pat looks at him, and Pat looks at me. I must have been like trying to hold back a smile, and he just says, "What's going on between you two then?" And I just went, nothing, no, nothing. And I look across the dirtbag and I'm thinking, what's dirtbag going to do here? And dirtbag goes, yeah, nothing, Dad. Now, I got to give him points just for not dobbing me in, because he could have dobbed me in and who knows. He had that much about him. But I tell you that story to say that sometimes, now as wrong as this may sound, and please don't ever take this, quote me out of context, sometimes when it comes to it, you've just got to hit the kid. Sometimes when it comes to it, you've just got to take the action that you've been threatening. And it's to do with integrity. Now, I'm not promoting violence and saying I want you to go out and be violent, but it might be just a line in your life. Sometimes you reach a point in your life and there's a line you have to draw. And if you draw that line with someone and they continue to push you, you have no other recourse. If you want to be a person of integrity, if you want to be an action man like me, a man of action, then you have to draw a line, and when it's crossed, you have to give the right reply, take the right action at the right moment. Now, I don't know about you, and I don't want to make every political stuff, but I look right now at all this kerfuffling going on in the world, and I just think, like, what is going on? Why are people not doing the things they do? Currently in England, we've got this massive political argument and millions of pounds being spent and loads of just time being wasted because our Prime Minister and all of his cronies just had loads of parties, and no one will say, yeah, I threw the party and I went to it. I mean, what the fuck? Like, we're adults. We're grown-ups. You know what I mean? Scary. And I look at these people and I'm like, what is going on? Why won't you just say the thing we all know? Why won't you draw a line and stick to it? Why won't you do that? There's another guy currently in England, Prince Andrew, right? So Prince Andrew is one of the royal family. You probably know about this, involved in this sort of sex scandal. Now, a while back here in England, he tried to kind of face this head on, and he did this interview on the BBC and like tried to cover himself and come up with all these excuses. Now, I'll get to one of the things he said in a minute, but we've got this big hullabaloo about that at the moment. What they're going to do and what's the Queen going to do and blah, 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 you know, and everyone, he's going to have to, Prince Andrew's going to have to testify and all that. No. Don't worry about that. I got the solution here. It's very easy. I'm a man of action, so I can tell you, I got the solution here. Because in that interview, one of the things that Prince Andrew said is it's nearly impossible for him to sweat. And he was fighting against a story where someone said that he went dancing with all these girls and stuff, and the woman in question remembers him being very sweating and profusely sweating on the dance floor, you know. And he said, well, that's just simply impossible because I don't sweat. Okay, here's the thing. I call bullshit. And we don't need a trial. We don't need a judge. We don't need to spend any more money or time on this. All we need is a locked room, couple of doctors, not even need a doctor really, couple of like personal trainers and a treadmill. Let's put Prince Andrew on a treadmill for 30 to 40 minutes, high rate, slight incline, get him to just go for his personal best. And here's how we do this. If he sweats, he did it. If he don't sweat, he's innocent. Simple. Man of action speaks. Done. Sorted. All done. Easy peasy. At the moment, here in England, we've pretty much removed our mask mandate. You don't have to do it anymore. But I'm a parent of two children, one in a primary school and one in a secondary school. One who is 10, one who is 13. And the schools are still putting loads of pressure on them to wear masks. And I'm like, look, here's the thing. Take some action. The law says you don't have to do it no more. Take some action. Be a person of action. Say no. Step out from fear. Step into life like it was just a short while ago. It's okay. It's okay. We need people of action. People faff around nowadays. People don't want to stick to one thing or the other. People want to come up with their own truth. Oh no, you know. It's madness. Sometimes when you've got a standard, people are going to keep pushing you. But if you don't take action, when they cross that line, when they cross your standard, you have to do something. And if you're not a person of action, you'll be a person who's acted upon. Okay? So learn that. Have some boundaries, have some barriers, have some lines drawn. And when people cross them, make sure that there is some reaction that you take. That's how you do it. That's how you become people of action. Second story. Now, here I've been married for, it'll be 21 years this year. 21 years, 21 glorious years. And I met my wife, Zoe, and within a couple of weeks, I knew I wanted to marry her. And people have asked me, like, how did you know that she was the one you wanted to marry? I said, well, look, out of all the girls I knew in my life, now I'm not saying I'm a super flyboy pimp or nothing, but out of all the girls I'd ever had interactions with, I'd never thought about marrying any of them. But when I met Zoe, within a couple of weeks, I knew I wanted her to be my wife. So we got married 21 years ago. But let me tell you a story that happened just before, well, slightly a while before we got married. So we meet, we start getting on, you know that lovely moment when you're first kind of like, you're first in love with someone, and everything's sunshine and everything's pretty and there's just love everywhere. You stay up all night. I remember one night I was around the house and we were playing chess. Even chess became like this lovely affair. And at a certain point, Zoe went, look, like, it's getting late, I mean, pretty soon it's going to be an all-nighter. I said, come on then, let's do an all-nighter. And we ended up staying up, talking, just playing chess. I mean, what is that? What kind of basic geek level bullshit's that? But I love this woman, right? So pretty soon we started a conversation about, I think we both in love. We declared our love for one another. It was a starlit night. There were swans and there wasn't none of that. I don't know where it was, man, but like, we said we loved each other and we decided, okay, we want to get married. We want to get married. So we went to ask her parents, or rather, I went to ask her dad. If you are a prospective groom, you'll know that this is tradition. It can't always happen, but in my opinion it should always happen. And now, as a dad of daughters, I want this moment with any suitors that come sniffing around my girls. I knew I would have to sit down Zoe's dad and I would have to ask him for her hand in marriage. Now, I should say I didn't entirely get on with her parents, or not get on, because her parents are very easy to get on with, but I hadn't made a great impression. The first time they met me, I was very nervous. I was very sweaty. I was very nervous energy. They didn't know a lot about me. I was just a part-time youth worker at that point on like no money, no qualifications. I mean, Zoe was as well. Zoe was a part-time youth worker at this point. But I was still a skateboarder, so they were like, what is like a 23-year-old man doing on a skateboard? Fair point, I suppose. I don't know. I was doing pretty well, actually. So it hadn't gone great, but we thought, we need to do this. It's the way you do things, right? You have to do it right. So off I go, and we go up to Zoe's parents, and I just remember in the moment. So we made a plan. We'll have dinner, we'll do small talk, and then at a certain point, Zoe will take her mum off upstairs into an upstairs room, and I'll do the washing up or something, and I'll have a chat with her dad, Ian. So Zoe at a certain point gives me the wink. I'm going, good luck. Off she goes upstairs with her mum to do whatever. And I settle down, and we're standing at the sink, and we're washing up. We're washing up dishes or cups or some shit, I don't remember. And at a certain point, and it's good because men don't like to talk face to face. We don't like to make eye contact. So it's good. We're both sort of looking out the window at the garden or looking at the particular cup or cutlery or whatever it was we were washing and drying. So at a certain point, I said, so Ian, I'm glad that Zoe's gone upstairs because I want to have a conversation with you. I love you. I love your daughter. Yep. So, I really want to commit and we want to take it to the next level. Yeah, okay, right. So I wanted to ask you if I could have a hand in marriage. No. Man said no. And man didn't only say no, he had a list. He had like genuinely had objections. And I remember standing there and I had like whatever it was I was drying in my hand, and I just sort of looked out in the garden. I went, well, that did not go how I planned it. And I don't know how, I think I sort of said to him, well, would you mind me asking what some of your objections are? And he said, well, yeah, I can tell you. One of the things was, can you keep my daughter in the lifestyle she's become accustomed to? Now, bearing in mind, she was earning $5,500 working for a small Church of England church in Finchley in London. And I really could have said, well, yeah, pretty much anyone can. She's earning £5,000 a year. But I think I knew what he meant. I think he was saying, I expect more, and I don't think you've got what it takes. And I think we had a bit more awkward conversating. Is that a word? Let's make it. We had a bit of awkward conversating, talking about that. And then at some point, Zoe came down the stairs, all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and she was like, oh, how'd it go? And I went, and I can't remember exactly how we got to it, but in pretty short time, we both jumped in the car and went back down the A1, back to where we lived. Zoe in tears, me just in like shock. And, you know, it was very important that we got his blessing. It was very important that we got his like, yes, you can marry my daughter. But what we got was a no. So what we did was, within a week or two, we got engaged. Even though there was a no, even though we said, look, we would love your blessing, we were just like so committed. We were like, we're doing this. And it was an interesting thing. I don't know what would have happened if we'd have entirely 100% honoured what they said and said, okay, we'll back up and we'll circle around. Maybe I'll go and study for a few years, and maybe I'll become a doctor or a neurosurgeon, and then we'll come back and maybe you'll accept me. We could have done something like that. I don't know how that would have gone, but what we did do is we just said, you know, we wanted your blessing, but we don't need your blessing. And we got engaged anyway. And the cool thing was that from the moment we got engaged, the moment we just said, hey, we're doing this, they were just sweet as a nut. They were just fine. There was no problem. There was never any friction. Ian never got his list out again of problems that was thrown away somewhere, and it became peachy. And now it's great. We're all just one big family, and here we are 21 years later. Now I want to tell you that story just simply as a way of saying, look, to be a person of action, to be someone who can get some stuff done, you need to go even when you get a no. If you feel something's right in your spirit, like in your marrow, if you feel like I should be doing this, I want to do this, then no matter what, you should go, even if there's a no. Now, it's in life, there's going to be lots of no's, and people are going to stop you, and people are going to maybe belittle your dreams and your plans, but you have to be headstrong. You have to be a person of action. You have to be like me. You have to be a man of action, or woman of action, person of action, whatever you're going to do. But you have to have values. You have to have things you want to do. And even if you get a no, don't let it stop you. Did you have a dream? Did you have something you wanted to do and you received a no and you stopped? Why? There's always going to be people who'll say no. There's always going to be situations that look more difficult and more taxing and more and so hard to reach and out of reach, well beyond your reach. But don't let that stop you. You should go for it. Now, I'm not an idiot. I know not everything ends in happy endings. I know not everything's achievable, but you're able to reach for anything you want to do. And sometimes a no can really make everything crash down on us, but we shouldn't let it. We shouldn't let it. A no should be like a red flag to a bull. It should make you want to go harder. Now, don't be horrible about it. You know, don't force others to do things they don't want to do. But when there's something you know you want to do, for sure, force yourself. For sure, work hard at it. And if you get those no's, keep pressing on. Don't give up. Now, like, this is the cue inspirational moment. You can do this. Every single one of us is able to achieve so much more than we think we can do. But everyone around us will have an opinion on it. And there'll be lots of people who will say that you can't do it, or you shouldn't do it, or that you won't do it. And there'll be lots of people willing to tell you no, but you've got to press just a little bit further, because just beyond the awkwardness, there is some life. If you just go there, don't accept a no. I'll tell you one more story, and then we've really got to go. One second. Oh, that's lovely. I went for a job interview, another job, and it was for a little warehouse that sold safety supplies, signage, high-vis jackets, all that sort of stuff. And I went there, and as soon as I got in there, I realised it was a slightly strange workplace. Everyone sort of looked the same. The women looked the same. All the men looked the same. All the men had beards. All the women had like scarves on their head. I was like, okay, I'm in a strange land here. The interview was very odd. It was me and two men and a woman, and I had to do stuff like arithmetic. Like, normally I was used to interviews. It was like, can you lift stuff? Yeah, I can lift stuff. Can you move while you're lifting it? Yeah, you can. Can you put it down? Yeah, I can. That was my qualification up to this point. But this time they wanted to do a maths test. So I'm asked about it, dealing with customers. They tell me, yeah, we don't use any electrical devices. We don't use calculators. There's no radio. There's nothing. So you've got to be able to work out numbers in your noggin. Now, as you know, I am just covered in maths. I'm a maths expert. Not. And I had to, and I remember they set me a test of sums and different things. And as I did it, a man literally stood right here over me, just watching me do it. And I did it, and I did terribly. My working out was bad. Even the way I wrote numbers was bad, let alone whether I had the answers or not. Carried on with the interview, and I could just see this interview as dead, man. I was like, this ain't gonna happen. Man can't add up. I'm not ready to wear like a headscarf, or at that point in my life grow a beard out or nothing. This is just bad times. So I'm ready to say goodbye, and I'm like, okay, it's gonna be a no. And this was quite a handy job. Money was gonna be all right. Very close to where I lived at the time. Would have been, it was in my wheelhouse in lots of ways. But I thought, I've just blown it here. No, and I could feel it. You can feel an energy in an interview when someone's like, just no, you know. So I'd noticed on his desk he had a Bible. Now, some of you may know my history. I was a Christian pastor for like 15 years. I am someone who follows Jesus. He's someone who tries to live my life after him and trying to inhabit his nature and have his nature in me. And so I know a bit about a bit. So I said to him, and just as I'm basically being shown out the door at this point, and I just hazard a question. I said, excuse me, is that a Bible on your desk? And Beard Man says, yes. And he picked it up and he went, well, what do you know of the Bible? I said, man, I knows a bit. And I began to talk, and we had a wonderful conversation about the end of the world, the Whore of Babylon, the dragons and the beasts, the book of Revelation, a whole crazy stuff. Interview went wild. And they went from like, no good, to like, showed me around the whole building, introduced me to the whole family, because it turns out it was one family. The whole company, I'll be the only person there who wasn't related to them working there. And got shown around, this is Rick, Rick's a Christian, Rick knows the Bible. And we had this whole conversation thing. And like I say, an hour and a bit later, I'm shaking the guy's hand and I'm like, you can start. And they're like, sorry, you can start tomorrow. Don't let a no stop you. Go a little bit further. Push a little bit deeper. Become like me, your sensei, a man of action. I don't know if these musings have been helpful. I hope they have. I've been Rick. This has been the Flat Earth Podcast. I hope you got something out of that. I hope that you learned to push. I hope you learned that sometimes you've got to take action if you threaten it and people keep pushing you. I hope you learned that when you get a no, sometimes you still have to go and go just a bit beyond what's comfortable, and you may find some good stuff there. Bless you guys. Have a great week. and I will see you next week. Looking forward to it. Laters.